Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CARES Project podcast. Today we have with us Dr. Sanjeev Kumar, who just got recently sentenced to 20 years in prison over absolute nonsense. He's just doing his job, and he's another victim of the weaponized judicial system. So, welcome back to the show. You want to reintroduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, hey everybody. My name is Dr. Sanjeev Kumar, and I'm a double board certified gynecologic oncologist based out of Memphis, Tennessee. And it's good to be with you, Dale. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. I was very disgusted when I heard about what was happening to you before, and the government just doubled down and gave you 20 years in prison for there was from what I saw, there was no reason for them to even charge you in the first place. And so what did you have a jury trial for this?
Yes, yes. I had a jury trial, correct.
So a jury found you guilty on this and then the judge sentenced you to 20 years?
Yeah, so the jury really didn't understand the case. The jury was asked about totally different things than what the sentencing was made out to be, and I still can't understand it
So
because
what did
the
they ask the jury? I just curious. What were they told?
yeah, so the jury was asked about instrument adulteration and misbranding, fairly nuanced area of law, and instrument misbranding means that an instrument didn't have a label on it. And if that instrument was used for a particular procedure, then that will be called healthcare fraud in the prosecution's position. And so I was charged with instrument misbranding and healthcare fraud and instrument adulteration. So, for example, if you throw a device in a trash can and the FBI picked it up from a trash can with clearly labeled biohazard bin or biohazard area with the danger sign on it,
Yes.
you they retrieved the instrument you know from that, and that happened on in April of 2024, and then they kept these devices in their custody for more than a year. The trial was actually in December 2025. They retrieved the device in April 2024, so from April to December, and then from December, January to December. So it was more than a year and a half that the devices remained in their custody under unsanitary conditions, filthy conditions. And then some of the devices were actually broken, physically broken in two.
Okay.
Um, Most of the devices were actually not even complete devices, they were like parts of a device. What are considered according to the FDA as device accessories. Like you have these cannulas, you have forceps graspers, and they showed them to the jury, under very, very high magnification. And they said, hey, look, there's a foreign material on them. So they tested blood 3 times, and the blood came back negative all 3 times. And then they said the devices are not suitable for any testing on the DNA because the devices were actually found in high level disinfectant, hospital grade high level disinfectant. So they showed to the jury, and the jury was asked to evaluate if a device was misbranded or adulterated. Now, if you read the um, press releases and so forth and so on, they will allege that they convicted me for reusing single use devices But the jury was actually never asked the question about actual use of a device. That is where I'm still shocked.
So okay, they had these devices that were had in the biohazardous waste. They took them, they kept them, they didn't properly contain them for analysis, and they had them there for a year and a half. And then they did bring them together and then demonstrated that they were in a lot of disinfectant. They had disinfectant in it. I used to work in a hospital. I used to be a healthcare aide. So I'm familiar with, when I was going to school, I'm familiar with disinfectant procedures. So if you have something and you throw it in the disinfectant, then you dispose it, that is following proper sterilization and disposal techniques. So
Yes.
what's the
Yes.
problem? What's the
Um,
problem?
I'm, I'm actually surprised that you have personal experience, but that's exactly it. Is you just don't throw away device after utilization. You have to decontaminate them so that it is safer for people down the stream. And if you actually Google CDC guidelines for disposal of biohazard waste, um, they tell you that, hey, decontaminate the device before throwing it away. And so they retrieved these devices out of this disinfectant and are now alleging that they were being reused. So we filed bill of particulars motion twice that, hey, tell us what patient, what procedure, what date. And they said, no, we are not going to release it. You're not entitled for it. And I wanted that information so I could defend myself against this very allegation. If you have a specific device for a specific procedure and a specific patient, you can build defenses. But these are, as you see, extremely vague allegations. So the jury was asked one question, and now the press release says something completely different.
But this is where I have a problem with
Yeah.
this. When they said
You'll be surprised to know. You'll be surprised to know the CDC biohazard disposal guidelines, which actually direct clinicians and healthcare workers to decontaminate devices before discarding, we were not allowed to admit those into evidence.
well, this is insane. Because
Yeah.
if, okay, they're saying that you reuse these things. Now let's just think about this. How are they know that you would reuse them without evidence of this? Like, there have to have some evidence. You probably have somebody say, you know what, I think somebody was reusing this and so forth, or I have to have, say, two different DNA samples of people from the same device, where you would sit down and say, this doesn't make sense. It's not like it was the DNA of a child they were carrying, because there'd be a partial match. It's just completely different. So where did this come from? Right? And if it was two women, female DNA, then you could sit down and ask questions. But there's none of this. So you're pushing a theory with no evidence. This is what I have a huge problem with.
Yes. Also, a lot of these devices, they are just like a part of a device. For example, I'll tell you one particular device, EndoC. So this EndoC has a monitor and it has a cannula that attaches to the monitor. The monitor is reusable, but the cannula is single use. Okay. When you hook the monitor to the cannula, if you're trying to reuse it, it will not let you reuse it. It has a kill switch in it. Okay. It has some sort of mechanism that'll flash a message that, hey, either change the cannula or call the medical rep.
Yes.
So they're alleging that I reuse that.
It this is, and
I
just for
reuse something that physically cannot be reused.
it yes,
And that's exactly why I wanted. So when you ask a question to a witness, was there endoc reuse? You have no way of knowing whether they are talking about the monitor or the cannula. That's exactly why You need to have bill of particulars, which device, which patient, which date. And imagine if the clinic has, 50 devices. They're only asking questions about 16 or 20. How do you know which device they're
Well,
talking about?
well,
And
yes.
that's why the bill of particulars motion was so important, and they didn't give it to us.
And just for the average viewer that's watching, I'll put it this way. It's like you go to the hospital and they have the thermometer and they have the plastic sheath over it. They use that, they dispose of it, and they put it on a new one and put it to the next patient. It's like charging them for using that thermometer, disposing of the sheath that's disposable, but saying they reused the thermometer, so they're going to go to jail for that.
Yep.
This is effectively what they're doing.
Yep. Also, the we recently filed a motion. So if you read the indictment alleges that if somebody at the clinic was reprocessing devices, then the clinic had to be registered with the FDA as a device manufacturer. Um, if you actually read the FDA guideline says that physicians don't have to register with the FDA as a device manufacturers. Physicians are not device manufacturers. The FDA policy has four exceptions to application of FDA regulations, and one exception is healthcare facilities other than acute care hospitals. Another exception is opened but unused device. So when we asked that we actually need proof of actual use of a device, the government filed a motion that no, they don't need to prove that a device was actually used on a patient.
Who said the judge agreed to this?
Yes, there was agreement from the court. The government's motion was allowed that proof of actual use of a device was not required in the criminal case
Okay,
beyond a reasonable doubt.
I'm okay. I
Because
this
because if you don't prove actual use of a device, then we squarely fall in the safe harbor of the FDA. And that's how this entire thing has never made sense to me.
well, this is what the judge did was extremely wrong, and I'm going to tell you this right now. What the judge did warrants intervention with that judge, because a judge has to ensure that the Constitution is followed. There has to be due process. If there is something that's an element of the case that is necessary to prove the case, that cannot be omitted, because then now the judge, who is only supposed to be a referee between the parties, has now used their decision making power to shift the balance in favor of someone who does not have the evidence. That is now, this is overreach 100%. And people have to sit down and think about how overreach works, because each branch is different. The legislative will overreach by passing laws that are unconstitutional. The executive branch, which represents force, will do things that are unconstitutional. The, the judges will exercise their judgment in an unconstitutional manner. In that decision, he robbed you of due process, making it impossible for you to be able to defend yourself in court. That is not allowed. This is not an error in judgment. This was a deliberate. The judge knew exactly what they were doing, and they backed up the state in the criminal activity that they're engaged in.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are so many issues in the case that, and we are basically, we have already filed for a appeal.
Yes,
So we will be appealing the case. And then, so let me basically go through a lot of the issues that are sort of fresh in my mind.
sure.
And the use is definitely one, because they cited a couple of cases where they said, well, if the device is just present in the clinic, it automatically means that it was used on a patient, or it is, quote, available for use on a patient. And I'm like, that's not the case. I mean, clinics have hundreds of devices. You walk into any hospital, So let's go through some scenarios. Let's say a surgical device is just sitting on the counter to be cleaned, right? That's in the journey of a device. Then let's say there's a device that a surgeon is using for research purposes, or a surgeon is using for educational purposes. You have tech students who are playing with the devices. You have medical students. You have PA students who are playing with the devices. Um, so if you have, let's say, 50 devices in the clinic, and you have no idea what the purpose of a given device is, you can just blanketly lump them into saying, well, everything is available for, quote, patient use. And so any device, any stray device that is there in the clinic is basically a criminal act. And we asked this question numerous times during the trial, that we think that a crime of intent is being created without a actual crime. The Morissette's principle that you don't have to prove use of a device, just the mere presence of a device in the clinic is enough to find a person guilty. Their freedom can be taken away and they can be held criminally liable. I mean, it is shocking. Uh, it was a different story if you said, if you came to me and you said, there's one this device, that's the only device you have, and you've done all these procedures with this one device,
Yes.
then I would agree that presence of that particular device, can be
Yes.
taken as equal to this device being used. That was not the case, and that's why we raised this point a number of times, that the government was basically trying an inventory case, that, oh, there were not enough devices, uh, but the procedures were being done.
but you have
And
but but you have record of the purchase of the devices
that's right.
and then the disposal and your inventory. Like, I mean,
That's right. So
how can
when
they even
so
do this?
yeah, so we have a clearly defined inventory of the device purchase, of enough devices being present at the clinic to perform our procedures. We had numerous multi-use devices. We had numerous multi-use devices that can be reprocessed quickly and can be used and reused literally thousands of times. You must have seen metallic devices at the hospitals. You must have seen flexible endoscopes that can be used thousands of times. And
Hmm.
we always had enough of them at the clinic. And when they realized that the inventory theory doesn't work on the paper, they try to basically allege all types of different things. For example, one of the things they alleged is, hey, every device had to be sterilized. And if you actually read the Olympus HYF XP instruction for use, it says no, the device can be safely used with either high level disinfection or sterilization. Either high level disinfection or sterilization. So they brought in a FDA lead reviewer, Dr. Palami Nandi, who basically said that FDA has never cleared a hysteroscope that can be used with high level disinfection. And it cannot be farther from the truth that this is so insane, is that her own agency's FDA guideline in the instruction for use document says that the device can be used with high level disinfection or sterilization repeatedly. And yet, she took a position that FDA has never cleared a hysteroscope that can be used without sterilization. Also, in the instruction for use document says the physician has complete discretion on the exact method utilized for reprocessing of the device. That the physician can utilize the discretion. Okay, and that's why you have two hospitals. Their processes will never be the same,
Yes.
depending on what machines they have, what setup they have. The methods of sterilization and disinfection vary
Yes.
according to the institution. Um, and so in my case, that is considered a crime. But then, whenever the motion was passed that the government does not actually have to prove use of a device, then I'm like, what am I defending against?
This
You
is
see?
exactly it. Just look, I got to just take a short break here, but we'll come back and discuss this.
Ontario, co-founder of Mark37.com. I spent my career in Silicon Valley working for high-tech infrastructure companies, and I've witnessed firsthand the surveillance apparatus they've built. Most of you already know we're in a digital war right now, but are you really aware that we're trying to fight this war with the weapons and tools of the enemy? That Android or iPhone in your pocket, that MacBook or Windows laptop, it's a tracking device feeding everything you say and do to companies that want you under their control or eliminated entirely. Every text, call, location, even how long you pause on a post, they track it all and use complex algorithms to then use this data to manipulate your behavior. If you knew someone hacked your devices and was selling your data without your consent, you'd be furious and terrified. So why are you okay with these companies doing this to you right now? Here's what they don't want you to know. There is another way. At Mark37.com, we offer phones, laptops, tablets, and even basic flip phones, all running systems big tech can't access unless you explicitly give them access. And what's even better is you also don't need to sacrifice productivity. I'm one of thousands of geeks mobilized across this country, building tools and providing education and support to help you live anonymously online before they enforce digital ID. Go to mark37.com. Sign up for a free 30-minute digital privacy consultation. Join hundreds of thousands who have decided to stop feeding their data to companies actively working to enslave us. Take back your communications. Take back your data. And may God bless you on your journey.
Yeah, so if you go to mark37.com and use the promo code CARES, you'll get a 5% discount. I got a phone to protect my data as well. So let's go kind of going back to this. So you, I'm the more I look at this situation, the angrier I get, because you basically the woman came in and lied about the procedures that they had there that were given out by the FDA.
The instruction,
It is
the FDA lead reviewer took a position that contradicted the FDA's own document. That is clear on the record, it's clear on the trial transcripts. And to me personally, it is very shocking because high level disinfection is used worldwide,
yes,
not just in my clinic, it's used worldwide for outpatient hysteroscopy and actually for lots and lots of other devices as well. You go into a dentist's office, you go to a gastroenterologist, you go to a urologist, a ENT surgeon's office. High level disinfection is basically very, very prevalent in outpatient procedures. So this was like shocking that a testimony like that was given. And then, going through, there are a lot of press releases which have been put out that, 15,000 procedures were performed with 200 devices. In fact, we submitted purchase records of more than 40,000 sterile single-use endometrial pipelles that were used for endometrial biopsies. Every time a new one, you open the pack, you use the pipelle to do your biopsy, and then you discard it. And that has never been covered in the case. Um, and then, they keep suggesting that 15,000 procedures were presented. Actually, they presented a lot of erroneous information like crossover claims. So if a patient has two insurance companies or even more insurance companies that they insure their care with, and if the claim was sent with its respective parts to different companies, they are saying that, oh, every time the claim was submitted, it's a new procedure. So if a claim was rejected for any reason, for clerical reason, or the claim was just not complete, or somebody clicked the wrong button, they are classifying all of this as like a new procedure.
But
The
you could have,
procedure actually have literally thousands and thousands of these procedures that are being claimed. Actually, there was no procedure, but a claim submission is counted as a new procedure, which is very wrong, very erroneous. So basically, all the procedures were crossover claims, rejected claims, denied claims, um, and even clerical errors to the insurance companies are being counted as new procedures, which is not good.
well, it's a
Um,
lie. It's a lie because it didn't happen.
yes. Also, then, in one of the exhibits, they presented um, data of procedures, the factitious procedures that they claimed on patients with no name. So you have the data set and there's no patient name, it's just a dot. So they used like junk data to inflate the number of procedures. So a patient with the name dot is having numerous hysteroscopy procedures according to them, and they're counting them in these numbers. So just a lot of junk data being presented to inflate the egregious allegations. We already went through more than 40,000 devices being purchased for endometrial sampling at the clinic. Um, the hysteroscopy reprocessing that happened for multi-use devices, hysteroscopy reprocessing for multi-use devices, utilized the autoclave for sterilization if the hysteroscope was metallic, or utilized higher level disinfection if the hysteroscope was flexible, because if you put a flexible hysteroscope that is not composed of a metal into an autoclave, it will melt. So it's
Yes.
physically not possible to sterilize a device that is flexible in an outpatient clinic of a physician. And the CDC says, even today you can read the guidelines. The CDC says that the instruments that cannot be sterilized can be high level disinfected on an outpatient setting,
Yes.
and that for office procedures with semi-critical devices, hysteroscopes are semi-critical. They're not critical devices, they're semi-critical devices according to the FDA and CDC, that when you use them, basically is okay to do high-level disinfection, and addition of sterilization for semi-critical devices has never been shown to improve clinical outcomes. Also, infection outbreak has never occurred after use of high-level disinfection in an outpatient clinic in a physician's office. And even then, this is a this has been made out to be a criminal case, and there's a sentence of 20 years. And they said if any such device, basically, it just means that if you had a hysteroscope, Olympus hysteroscope that is flexible, and you used high-level disinfection to disinfect this Olympus hysteroscope, that's a crime. And if that was used in a procedure, it's this procedure is fraud.
So then
And
lots of people are,
originally they charged this very setup as an act of rape, human trafficking, sexual assault.
this is completely out of control. Like they're making up charges to persecute people because none of this is criminal. And I just kind of want to touch on here because you were had sent some stuff over about the witnesses that they used as experts, and one guy who never actually performed one of these procedures, but was used as an expert witness. Can you tell me about this, Dr. Matt McDonald?
Yeah, so this particular witness took the stand on the behalf of the government as a quote expert witness. But I'm still perplexed and confused as to how somebody who does not perform office hysteroscopy can function as an expert witness in a case that is solely based on office hysteroscopy. So, how can you be an expert on a procedure that entails office hysteroscopy? So, the case is entirely about office hysteroscopy. It's not about hospital hysteroscopy. The case is about office hysteroscopy. This particular witness that the government used as an expert does not perform office hysteroscopy. So, how come can they act as an expert in something that they don't do on a daily basis?
They can't. Like,
And
the,
and he said multiple times, he said, I have no understanding of office hysteroscopy equipment. I don't do this procedure in the office.
and so
Um,
they,
he
the,
also he also made up procedures. He wrote a report in which he put down procedures done in 2017. Our clinic was not even open in 2017. The clinic actually started in 2019, and yet he put hysteroscopy performed in 2017 on his report. That's how inaccurate the report was. He made up ghost procedures, procedures that actually didn't happen. So he just put it in the report and counted them. He even manufactured pathology reports for these procedures that actually didn't happen. Multiple times he counted dilatation and curettage. Multiple times, dilatation and curettage. We don't perform dilatation and curettage in our clinic in the office setting. You can't. For dilatation and curettage, the patient needs to have either heavy sedation or to be under anesthesia, and it typically happens in the hospital. We don't perform dilatation and curettage in the office when the patient is awake. These are very simple procedures, office hysteroscopy with endometrial sampling, you see. So that's just numerous amount of errors in the reports, yet he was allowed to be an expert, and his testimony was taken. And he actually provided zero references, just zero peer-reviewed references to support the report, and just was making up things like he said, well, if you had a hysteroscopy and endometrial sampling, and if it was negative, you're good for another year, meaning you can guarantee that the patient will not have cancer for at least another year. Now, I myself have seen patients who were diagnosed with endometrial cancer as early as 2 weeks after a negative assessment. This is our own clinic data. And you're talking about the background of this endometrial cancer, which has become the fastest growing cancer in women in America, and specifically affecting more in African American communities where the death rate is twice as high. So we are already dealing with a very high risk population where actually you need more of these services, not less. And for a fact, the cancer keeps rising. Um, the government expert does not treat similar patient. The population where this expert is in practice is very different than the population of Memphis that we treated. And we already went over the fact that he does not do office hysteroscopy. Then he made up several age cutoffs. He said many times that, oh, below this age, hysteroscopy is not indicated. Below this age, hysteroscopy is not indicated. In one of these write-ups that he did, there were patients, let's say in their 20s, who he said they don't need this procedure because of the age. And if you look what he lists his expertise as, he enrolls patients for advanced endometrial cancer above the age of 18, meaning um, if you develop endometrial cancer by the age of 18, you can go and enroll in his clinical trial. But he does not advocate performing an office hysteroscopy at that age that could actually give you an early diagnosis. So that's how contradictory the report was, which was completely out of bounds.
This is insane, and I want people to understand that this case applies to everyone. If you allow this type of case to continue, it's only going to get worse, and we can't allow these types of things to continue. Not at all. I wanted you to just kind of touch on the another government witness, Dr. Ben Abdu, and what they did.
Um, this particular witness basically, according to my recollection, took the stand and actually admitted that he was reusing single use devices, even though multi use devices were available. And then he was asked a question why he was doing that. He said, well, that's because those single use devices were more comfortable for his patients. And he said he didn't think that he did anything wrong. And he said it was not, quote, unreasonable to do that. And he said the insurance companies are real criminals, um, and that he got government immunity. He got government immunity and is in practice. In fact, has joined a group that competes with me in the market.
So they allowed somebody who was actually engaged in the practices that you said that they're trying to charge you with, and to sit down and come and testify against you, gave him immunity, but they don't have any evidence that you did this in the first place.
That is exactly what is happening in the case. They basically eliminated a lot of the requirements. So, for example, by removing the requirement for the government to prove actual use of a device on a patient for any specific procedure, um, what do you defend against? Then the only thing that is remaining is whether the device was actually there in the clinic. The devices were there in the clinic. We don't dispute that. When the raid happened, I was not at the clinic at all. I was actually in the hospital and construction was going on. So who knows who put what device where? And there you have it. That becomes the evidence in the case. And you know, you have witnesses that testified that they reused devices, even though I gave them multi-use devices to be used. So they didn't use the multi-use devices, but they rather chose to use a single-use device. And they testified that it was more comfortable for their patients, and they didn't think that anything was wrong with it. And yet, I am being, targeted and persecuted for it.
Oh yes. I mean, we're gonna take a short break. I'm gonna play another commercial, but then we'll be coming back to wrap up on this, because this is out of control. But we'll be right back after this.
Hello friends, my name is Keisha, and I'm a proud member of the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan. I'm also a survivor of human trafficking. My trafficking began in Canada and crossed it to the United States. I was stalked, hunted, and ignored by the very systems that were meant to protect me. This is why, with my father, Dale Richardson, we started the CARES Project, an Indigenous survivor-led movement for humanity. We are dedicated to exposing human trafficking, government corruption, and holding institutions accountable. The judicial branch is broken. It has failed to restrain the evils that have come upon this republic. whether it's family court failures, weaponization of the judiciary, COVID-era harms, or human trafficking, the courts have allowed these issues to continue unchecked for too long. One of the most powerful tools we're using is the petition for redress of grievances. These are lawful constitutional actions rooted in the founding principles of this country. On May 19, 2026, a formal petition for redress of grievances was submitted to the United States Congress. This petition is demanding that Congress and the President use the powers under Article 4, Section 4 to preserve this Republican form of government by restraining these abuses pending congressional investigation. Through the CARES Project Action Plan, we are mobilizing people across the United States to strengthen this effort. This petition has been created as a template. If you or someone you love have been hurt by these same systemic failures in the courts or by government institutions, your evidence matters. When you come forward, please bring your evidence along with a copy of the petition for redress of grievances. This helps connect your story to this growing constitutional record being placed before Congress. We are asking you to stand with us. Join the CARES Project Action Plan and help us build a precedent that demands accountability and protects the God-given rights of American families. Our united voices will compel Congress to uphold the Constitution and safeguard our liberties. United we stand, one nation under God. I will close with my favorite quote. The greatest want of the world is the want of men. Men who will not be bought or sold. Men who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. Men whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle to the pole. Men who will stand for the right, though the heavens may fall. Thank you.
Yes, and so I mean, this is the very thing why we're doing what we're doing, because what's happening with you is out of control. And the more that I look at it, the more I get disgusted. And everybody should be disgusted when they see things like this, because it's not going to stop with you. It's going to continue and it's going to get worse. And the more that we allow this to happen, the worse it becomes, because there is no charges, there is no basis for anything. This is 100% made up. And the guy that testified against you went ahead and took a job at a competing clinic. And he was known to do this practice that they're trying to charge you with. This is, I don't know anybody can sit down and be okay with this.
Yeah, I mean, the testimony is pretty clear and it's on the record like a day and night. There was another witness that was presented by the government, who was an insurance doctor. The insurance doctor does not actually see patients in the clinic. She is not a gynecologic oncologist, but she said she reviewed my charts, and she reviewed a visit for a few patients, 4 or 5 patients, very, very complex. One patient, for example, had a developmental anomaly where her bladder and the reproductive organs actually open at the back rather than in the front. Several developmental anomalies, very, very difficult anatomy. And I had performed several hysteroscopies for this patient just to actually figure out the anatomy, because the anatomy was completely abnormal. Even today, this patient is in a wheelchair, and it's very, very difficult for even experts like me to decipher where all the anatomy connects. So this type of work, complex body of work, was reviewed by somebody who actually doesn't see patients in the clinic, reviews charts and does insurance type of work. And this particular witness had appeared in front of the medical board, and was recommended to have some sort of like a re-entry pathway to regain a medical license. So re-entry pathway, or like an administrative license, was recommended for her. Again, I raised the question: is that why is this person even evaluating my work in a criminal trial in the court of law when she is not qualified in a similar fashion? She's not my peer, she's not my colleague, she doesn't actually see a patient in the clinic.
They have
So
no
how?
idea of what they're doing. They don't when it comes to what you're doing, they don't have any idea.
They
They don't have
don't.
any experience.
Correct. They don't have the expertise, experience, or even the qualifications um, to evaluate my work. And yet, those type of things were allowed um, to go on. There was a FDA special agent on the case who basically destroyed evidence on the phone. Um, and when they were asked about this, they said, well, his phone was reset to the factory settings. So he lost communication with the witnesses that he was texting and calling. So he was sending a lot of witnesses the exhibits and texting them, and all of this was lost. Um,
So they should. His cell phone company should have the metadata.
yeah, I don't know where that is. Apparently, he said it's a FDA phone, and the agency handles these type of phones. So beyond that, we have no idea
The the
what happened.
the FDA has a carrier that they contract the phones from. Those carriers will have the metadata that they have, and that can be subpoenaed. I would definitely go ahead and do this because this is nonsense, right?
Yep, yep. Um, so you had the FDA special agent, resetting the phone to the factory settings. Then you had the FDA lead reviewer who basically contradicted the FDA's own instructions for use document. And then remember, for these type of devices, I was charged with sexual assault, human trafficking, rape, um, which basically, took away resources from the other needy patients. If they had undergone, with these type of things, then these resources could obviously be beneficial for them, or other, people in the community where these resources could actually help. And they were, diverted in my case where none of that stuff was going on. And I was charged under this false and novel theory that if somebody did a procedure, a medical procedure, a small medical procedure called hysteroscopy, that somehow did not make them happy about a certain protocol, then that's a sexual crime.
But what the motivation? The only thing that I can think of here is this prosecution came because someone doesn't like you helping the people that you're helping. This is all of the thing that I can sit down and think of. Because other than that, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. You're doing your job. You're helping a vulnerable population who is at much higher risk of cancer than the other people. You're doing this procedure. And in some cases, I remember last time you said you did it out of pocket and so forth. So how is this something to punish someone? Like I don't get it. Like this is this is this is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like I mean absolutely unbelievable. Like I mean that this is actually happening now in a court of law. This the judge should be fired, the prosecutor should be fired, all those expert everybody who came up there, they should be the ones going on trial. Everybody, because you can't do this.
Yeah, a lot of things that we definitely believe should not be happening obviously happened. Remember, the Medical Board of Tennessee had conducted an independent investigation and had dismissed the case. And they had interviewed the witnesses. They had looked at the evidence, they looked at the pictures, and they sent me a letter in September of 2024 dismissing the case. Um, and yet the federal prosecution went forward, and now you see a 20-year sentence, which with tremendous number of flaws, novel charging theories, and this type of activity happening. All the time that this is happening, the endometrial cancer, uterine cancer keeps rising. Every 10 minutes, a new endometrial cancer gets diagnosed in America, and hysteroscopy can help. Early diagnosis of endometrial cancer can help, diagnosis of fibroids, polyps, other things going on in the uterus. And there have been just a number of things that should not have happened have occurred in my trial. And we are definitely appealing for that reason. If you look at our emergency motion, very important document to review, it basically says FDA and CDC both recognize the presence of these safe harbors that their own policy dictates. That when a physician's office engages in cleaning their devices, that FDA doesn't come in the middle of it, that they are protected under these safe harbors, that they don't have to uh, register as a device manufacturer. It's a practice of medicine. And if a device is open but unused, that doesn't come under the FDA regulation either. It's not a reprocessed device by definition because it hasn't been used. So, on one hand, you have these regulations being put out by these very government agencies, and on the other hand, you have prosecution going on which says we don't need to prove actual use of a device, and yet there's a crime. I think you're muted, Dale.
Yes, I'm muted. I do that from time to time. This is a huge problem because they're saying we're going to convict you because I said so. There's this thing called the U.S. Constitution that doesn't allow this because that's the type of thing that you see in totalitarian countries. And this cannot continue. This is one of the most offensive trials that I've seen. And it is so disgusting. There's no basis for it in reality. Anyone who has any type of sense who looks at this can sit down and say, there is zero reason for this. And then they bring in the government people to lie. This shouldn't be happening in America. This should not. This is what you would expect to happen under Stalin or somebody that's like, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. Like, you can't have this mentality. I mean, at the end of the day, something has to be done. So I want you, before we wrap up here, tell people, what do you want to say to people and how can they reach you? How can they help you? Because this is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. We have a website, drsanjeevkumarsurgeon.com. People can find me there. There are contact details over there. They can find me on LinkedIn. My email is available, and they can also find me through you, Dale. And people should be vigilant. They should be educated. They need to deploy the critical thinking and not accept the narrative of a side that is just putting out propaganda material to mislead people. That should not happen. We should be vigilant and critically evaluating what decisions are being dropped on us to physically endanger us, basically, and
Yeah.
take away
Or
our
go ahead.
freedoms.
Yeah, and I'll have your links in the description here so people can go and reach out. Like I said, share this, do something about this, because you can't let things like this happen, because this is only going to get worse. And the next time it could be you. And this is what people have to understand. You don't have liberty unless your neighbor has liberty too. If they don't have liberty, you do. You just have privileges. It's only a matter of time before they come and take them. Thank you for coming. I mean, I wish it wasn't under these circumstances, because you have your life, right? I mean, you could spend the rest of your life in prison, right? Like, I mean, God knows what can happen, because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And they want to just basically destroy your life for doing your job. And this is insane. So I will close here with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. And Lord, we thank you for the hope you have given us. And look at the situation with Sanjeev and the wickedness that he's going through. And I ask of you to open a way that he would gain his freedom, and that people would see the truth, and that things would go the way they should, instead of the wickedness that people purpose to do. And help that the men and women would come together to rebuild our families, our churches, our community, our nation, and to protect from this evil wickedness is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
What starts here changes the world. I have a few suggestions that may help you on your way to a better world. And while these lessons were learned during my time in the military, I can assure you that it matters not whether you ever served a day in uniform. It matters not your gender, your ethnic or religious background, your orientation, or your social status. Our struggles in this world are similar, and the lessons to overcome those struggles and to move forward, changing ourselves and changing the world around us, will apply equally to all. So here are the 10 lessons I learned from basic SEAL training that hopefully will be of value to you as you move forward in life. Every morning in SEAL training, my instructors, who at the time were all Vietnam veterans, would show up in my barracks room, and the first thing they'd do was inspect my bed. If you did it right, the corners would be square, the covers would be pulled tight, the pillow centered just under the headboard, and the extra blanket folded neatly at the foot of the rack. It was a simple task, mundane at best, but every morning we were required to make our bed to perfection. It seemed a little ridiculous at the time, particularly in light of the fact that we were aspiring to be real warriors, tough, battle-hardened SEALs. But the wisdom of this simple act has been proven to me many times over. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. So if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. During SEAL training, the students are all broken down into boat crews. Each crew is 7 students, 3 on each side of a small rubber boat, and 1 coxswain to help guide the dinghy. Every day your boat crew forms up on the beach and is instructed to get through the surf zone and paddle several miles down the coast. In the winter, the surf off San Diego can get to be 8 to 10 feet high, and it is exceedingly difficult to paddle through the plunging surf unless everyone digs in. Every paddle must be synchronized to the stroke count of the coxswain. Everyone must exert equal effort, or the boat will turn against the wave and be unceremoniously dumped back on the beach. For the boat to make it to its destination, everyone must paddle. You can't change the world alone. You will need some help. And to truly get from your starting point to your destination takes friends, colleagues, the goodwill of strangers, and a strong coxswain to guide you. If you want to change the world, find someone to help you paddle. Over a few weeks of difficult training, my SEAL class, which started with 150 men, was down to just 42. There were now 6 boat crews of 7 men each. I was in the boat with the tall guys, but the best boat crew we had was made up of the little guys, the Munchkin crew we called them. No one was over 5'5". The Munchkin boat crew had one American Indian, one African American, one Polish American, one Greek American, one Italian American, and 2 tough kids from the Midwest. They out-paddled, outran, and outswam all the other boat crews. The big men in the other boat crews would always make good-natured fun of the tiny little flippers the Munchkins put on their tiny little feet prior to every swim. But somehow these little guys from every corner of the nation and the world always had the last laugh, swimming faster than everyone and reaching the shore long before the rest of us. SEAL training was a great equalizer. Nothing mattered but your will to succeed, not your color, not your ethnic background, not your education, not your social status. If you want to change the world, measure a person by the size of their heart, not by the size of their flippers. What starts here